Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Scherger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Scherger.
Folks, welcome to The Blonde and the Bald. I'm Dr. Frederick Scherger.
And I am Dr. Beth Bagley.
You almost paused like you didn't know your first name.
It's been a long day.
I've had days like that. In fact, this week, this is, while this will come out on, I believe, December 14th, this is the second week of the daylight savings time fiasco that I have every time we change stuff. This morning, I don't remember if it was yesterday or today that I couldn't tell you if it was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm like, I don't know the day. And my
Dr. Ladd was saying happy Wednesday to people.
Oh my goodness.
And somebody's like, it's Thursday. And she goes, oh my gosh.
I'm in this, for me, I lose 2 weeks of productivity every time. And sometimes I just get in the flow of things and I go, and then that's got to be good enough, because anything else, I'm just going to sit back and, I've got a list of things, like I'm trying to work on my goals going into the new year. And
yes,
I just can't. My brain is just, fried at the end of the day, and it is unfortunate.
But hopefully next week will be a better week, because 3 weeks we should be able to get used to it by then.
Well, it takes me 2, and next week is going to be Thanksgiving anyways for us. And there will be lots of turkey and brisket and pork.
Yum, all of your favorite meats.
Yes, all the meats.
So speaking of how our brains work, one of the things at my office and in my life I try to do is focus on wins. And that's why a lot of you listening to the podcast have noticed that we start a lot of times the podcast with wins. And real quick, I just want to talk about why we start things with wins. Is winning mindset is a choice, because we could choose to be like, oh, the weather, and then, oh, the darkness, and this patient bothered me today, and blah, blah, blah. And we get into this habit of being negative and having thoughts that then wrap around other thoughts. And overall, we'll tend to just be a negative and miserable person. I choose not to live that way. I actually used to live that way before I used to get adjusted. I had so many health problems, and I focused on those health problems and was miserable all the time. Once I saw there was a light at the end of the tunnel, I stopped that. So one of my wins for this week is this wonderful patient named Nathan. He's in his 80s, and his daughter did some searching on the internet and found this upper cervical thing, and she lives out of town. And so one of his other daughters and son and a bunch of people started bringing him down. And it's about a 30-minute drive to our office from the north part of St. Louis. And when I first met him, he could barely lift his head. He could lift his head, but his face just looked miserable. Honestly, I thought, this is just a grumpy old man, and he's going to be no fun to work with. Now, he was nice. He wasn't a mean, but he just wasn't very personable. And then over the course of just about 2 or 3 weeks of care, I started seeing a whole different person emerge, because he was dizzy. He just felt foggy. He couldn't think straight. And I got a few smiles out of him. And now It's been 8 months since he started care. And he comes in more for maintenance type visits. He just comes in every 2 or 3 weeks. And he is just the biggest joy to be around. So I asked him this week if I could take his picture with me and him, because we're celebrating Men's Health this week in the office. And I got the picture of him. He was holding a sign about how he had vertigo and it's gone. And he doesn't get on Facebook or any of the socials, but his daughters found me and he told his daughters to look, and they posted, "Thanks for taking care of my dad." And oh, it was just such a sweet win. And it's when we get to see that kind of change in someone, even a personality change.
Mhm.
They knew the guy. I just never knew how wonderful he was because he felt so bad. So I'm just happy they've got their dad back.
Woohoo. Well, that's excellent. And I will make a point to note that, yes, I'm maybe a little bit negative about daylight savings time, but there are things you can do just to keep moving forward, like you said, as far as wins, and keep that positive attitude. One of mine, as we've discussed in the past, is I have a very strict, I don't even say strict, but it's a very, constant workout schedule. And I do this all the time to sort of keep my my mental state, my physical state, moving the way they're supposed to, which brings me to my win for the week. Is I've got a young lady who was referred in by a couple of, good friends and patients. In fact, probably should have them on at some point in time to sort of share the story of how they're doing, especially since I've used their story in other, I've shared their story with other people and other research that I've done. But anyway, so they went out to dinner with this couple, and they hadn't been out to, the wife of the patient, the patient that I have, she has days where she can't get out, right? The weather changes. She's not leaving the house. They missed their wedding, this new couple, my new patient's wedding. So they finally get out to dinner, and the new patient, she's sitting there at dinner. She's just shaking her arm, trying to get, blood flow, trying to get, the tingling to go away. They say, "You got to go see Dr. Sugar." And it's just like, so she's like, "Fine, I'll go do it." She comes on in, and she describes what's going on with her shoulder and then down into the arm as a Clydesdale biting down on her shoulder.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Well, that was my next question, is when did you ever experience a Clydesdale biting on your shoulder so that you know what that feels like? Because that's just that, right? It's any case, she just says it's so bad. We now have a small pony biting on her shoulder after 2 weeks. But
much better.
Much better. But here's the other thing that's just amazing. So she's also very focused on her physical training. We were joking about how she would rather lift weights than do yoga. She doesn't mind yoga, but she'd rather lift weights. But one of the that was keeping her sane through all of this. But then she's finding out, maybe I need to have surgery because things are a little screwed up. She hasn't slept through the night more than maybe a couple hours in months. Wednesday night, just last night for her, she slept all the way through. And then even last night, Tuesday night going into Wednesday, she slept all the way through. And the other night she got up for, got to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m, comes back and is back asleep for the rest of the night. So it's, opposed to being up and, dealing with the pain and everything else, the pain is subsiding, but she's slowly making that progress, but fast enough that she's like, "Oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is going to get me healthy." So
amazing.
Yes, very much so.
And that keeps us going on even negative, dark days.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so
especially with daylight savings time, and it's 5 o'clock, it's dark out, and I'm just
so
like,
dark.
I want to go take a nap. And I have a waiting room full of patients that I got to take care of. So
yeah. So for the listeners, what I want you guys to listen to is one of my quick things I do sometimes when I have those negative circular thoughts starting to form, is to think of 3 things I'm grateful for. And right now I want you to think of just one. And when you find one, you'll be able to find the next one. And I've got so many blessings, the things that I can be grateful for. And I know you do too, but sometimes we actually have to either write them down or say them, or at least to think through them. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and it changes your brain pattern. So y'all can do it too. So speaking of Clydesdales biting on your arm, that's probably not a great thing to do if you're trying to hold an adjustment.
Given a choice, it's not a great thing. And there are other activities that are not great to do either that may knock you out of adjustment. I think I've spoken in the past about how I'm a little bit hesitant to do pull-ups because when I started doing pull-ups and I got good at them, I'm like, hey, I like doing these. And then I knocked myself out of adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a constant thing that was always happening. So I said, all right, I'm just not going to do pull-ups. And it's funny. Dr. Blair, who developed the technique that Dr. Bagley and I practice, along with many others throughout the country, he had a strict rule for his two daughters that they were never allowed to go bowling, right? And Dr. Blair passes away around 1985, 86. I can't remember exactly when. But he passes away, and kids being kids, they're like, well, Dad's not around to nag me about it. I'm going to join a bowling league. So one of the two daughters joins a bowling league. And she's bowling. She's having a grand time. And then all of a sudden, she starts having these weird symptoms. Now, we don't have a definitive diagnosis on this, but the symptoms resembled multiple sclerosis. And she ended up just like having all these problems. They never got to the MRI, which is actually the definitive the thing for diagnosing multiple sclerosis. They got to look at your brain and see all those lesions that are through it. But she ends up getting adjusted by Dr. Blair's. I've got like two names that I know we're not supposed to go together. But anyways, to the doc that bought Dr. Blair's practice.
Muncie?
No.
Not Arlington. Dr. Arlington?
No, but it does begin with an A, and I can't remember. And I apologize to all the Blair historians out there that are going to be like, Sugar, you should know this, and I should. But in any case, she gets adjusted, symptoms go away, she stops bowling. So sometimes things that you think look like a lot of fun, maybe they aren't, and maybe they are not of benefit to your health.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes into the patient that came in, trigeminal neuralgia case she does great. And then all of a sudden things go south, and she was doing great this week. And then things went south yesterday, and her husband brings her in today to get adjusted. Sure enough, her axis is out of place. What did she do last night? She went bowling.
Yep.
And, I don't know if I can show this on the video for people to see. I'm going to try to show. Can you see how my shoulder is reaching further? A lot of people, when they bowl, they let the entire arm and the shoulder extend out.
Mm-hmm.
And my suspicion is most people are doing that as part of the bowling form. The problem with that is that means your shoulder is more mobile than it's supposed to be. Some people, I suspect, have no problems with this, and they have enough strength in their shoulder that they can move like that. But a lot of people, especially women, will not have the upper body strength. And as a consequence, and probably myself included, might have enough shoulder instability that when that happens and you go into that full extension, it's going to pull on your neck because of the muscles that are attached from your shoulder blade to your upper neck, knocking you out of adjustment.
That's one of the. So 2 times just this past, I don't really bowl that often or get invited to bowling, but just 2 times in the last 2 weeks, there's been bowling things with our church. And both times they're like, oh, you can bowl too. And I said no. And it's not that I'm afraid of bowling. And it's not that I'm trying to be antisocial. I still went and talked and had fun. It was that I knew that if I did that, I would almost for sure. And that's just because I don't have good bowling form. I'm not a bowler. Mm-hmm. I would have thrown myself out of alignment, maybe hurt my shoulder. And I need my shoulder and I need my alignment. So to me, it was worth me saying, no, thanks, but I'll just have fun sitting here and talking. And I still had fun, ate some chicken wings. They were delicious.
I was going to say that's half the fun is just eating the wings at the bowling alley. So
chicken wings was really good. And so I just want people to know is you could still go have fun if you misalign easily and you're not a professional bowler and you haven't built up that strength. It's maybe not worth it to your health to have bowling as this every so often. Now, if you're someone who, like, I have a professional bowler as a patient and he had chronic migraines for years and he used to work with my husband. My husband said, you got to go see Beth. Well, years passed. You got to go see Beth. Finally, he came and saw me and his migraines went away. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he does occasionally get adjusted, maybe like once every 2 months need an adjustment, but he bowls once or twice a week,
Right.
like bowls 300s. He's 9 times, I think he's bowled 300. So he is a really good bowler. He does not throw himself off every time he goes bowling because he would have migraines all the time.
Right.
So I'm not saying everyone has to quit bowling. I'm just saying there are certain people, me and maybe you, that it's not worth it to us. And there's a lot of other things that are like that too.
I was going to say, because that's not the only activity that's going to knock you out of adjustment.
No.
For those, and I've shared my story in the past, I got into chiropractic because I was having a blast doing Kung Fu and martial arts. And part of the school that I went to, we did a lot of rolling what is now considered Jiu-Jitsu. And probably not to the same level that people, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu school was doing, but we were certainly doing some of that. And one of the things that I would love to do is to join one of the Jiu-Jitsu gyms here in town and practice and learn how to do that. Except I don't have someone to check me on a regular basis. I will need to get adjusted just with some of the chokeholds alone. I mean, folks, chokeholds, they are not as dangerous as they sound. It's like, oh my, they're going to choke you out. No, you tap out and you say, hey, you got me. I don't need to pass out for a chokehold to be applied. But repetition of that will probably knock me out of adjustment. Out of adjustment is a bad thing because then I usually lose a day, if not more, which means, again, more productivity that doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So that's one of the reasons that, as much as I'd love to, unless I have an associate coming in on a regular basis, it's not going to happen that I get to go roll.
Yeah, it's just not worth it to us because we know what our bodies do and what our patients' bodies do when they're out. So I've got a fun one and a terrible one: roller coasters.
Oh, yes.
So I used to love roller coasters. Oh my gosh, I love some roller coasters, and I still love the idea of roller coasters.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually go on a roller coaster, I tell patients it's like if you go to like Six Flags or any of the like Universal or whatever, it's like getting into 4 to 6 car accidents in one day.
Yep.
And that is not okay. My body can't handle that. So there's a picture on my Facebook and Instagram of my kids and husband and I went to Universal. I did not go on any of the bad roller coasters. I went on a couple like easy ones. And all 3 of them needed to get adjusted. Now I brought a little table piece and everything, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to get adjusted when I was there. So I did not go on the crazy roller coasters.
Right.
And I won't for the rest of my life because I know what it's like to feel so bad.
So technically what we need to do is when you say, hey, doc, the family and I, Jason and I, are going down to XYZ place. You and Jean need to come with so that
there you
can
go.
Adjust me. So that's just how it's going to have to work.
See, we need to go on vacations, the whole family's together. Absolutely. And then we can go on roller coasters and get right back on track.
Exactly. And quite honestly, I don't know, I think I've told this story as well. Man, we might be running out of my good stories. But when I was out interning with Drew Hall, Space Mountain is all inside in the dark. You can't see where the turns are coming. And the standing joke was, everyone who goes to Disney and gets on Space Mountain ends up being out of adjustment the next day. And I had the one day that it knocked me into adjustment, and I lucked out. I that morning I'm like, I feel miserable. I'm out of adjustment. Might as well get on the ride, and it worked out. And I didn't need to be adjusted on the next day. But if you don't have your chiropractor and your upper cervical doc going on vacation with you, I would choose, and you're like, well, I want to go on this roller coaster. My kid, my family member, my spouse wants to go with me. The first choices that I would definitely do are the metal roller coasters that have a full harness that you can sort of brace your head strongly. You're not going to. You will not brace your head. The G's hit and you're flopping around. But you can definitely sort of tuck your chin and hold better on that. That said, the ones that are more fun are the wooden roller coasters, which they have a special place in my heart. But especially what's the one down at Six Flags down your way? That's the old wooden roller coaster.
Screaming Eagle.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Screaming Eagle is screaming for a reason, because it will jar you. You might lose some fillings along with that. It's
awful.
Yeah, if you lose fillings, don't come to us. Go to your dentist for that.
But I remember being a kid and thinking, this is so much fun.
Exactly.
And I wrote it, I don't know how many years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago, just thinking. It was my sister and I went to Six Flags as adults, and it was so fun to go with her. But we rode that and I regretted it immediately.
Yes.
I regretted it actually after the first turn. And I couldn't get off because it still had a long way to go. So folks, if you are under upper cervical care or have chronic health conditions, maybe roller coasters just aren't for you anymore.
And the nice thing is they have lazy rivers. Do the lazy river.
Lazy river every time.
Every
Beautiful.
time. See, so you have options when you go to these parks and you're like, oh, I would love to. But we have to ask the question, what is better, your long-term health, your enjoyment with your family, or that
45 seconds.
45 seconds, exactly. So because Screaming Eagle, when we went, in fact, we went while I was still in chiropractic school with some friends. My now wife Jean, she got on it. She regretted it afterwards. She's the same boat, and I don't know if we went back. She went back to the hotel for the rest of the day, but the rest of the day was just miserable for her. So, but yeah, so we've got those. What else do we have? What other activities? Obviously,
I've got
for me
currently what I've seen a lot of issues with, at least 6 patients today, is raking leaves. And I'm going to put vacuuming with that too, because there's a very similar motion that happens with both of those things. And for raking leaves, there's also a bending and lifting because you're putting leaves into a bag or something like that. But in general, you've got your arm. Pretty much people rake just one way.
Yeah.
They don't turn the other way. When I rake, I try to turn both ways. But most people just go one way the whole time. And that twisting and turning will cause back pain. But it's like, there's a relationship. Obviously, the whole spine is this kinetic chain, which can cause your upper cervical to go out, but it also can just cause acute low back pain, and has with 6 patients today.
And to the point, for those of us who, most of folks are listening here in the Midwest, and you're like, well, when was everyone doing raking leaves? It was on beautiful days. I mean, the weather here was at least 60 degrees. For the past several days during the day. They're perfect leaf raking days. So what do you want to do? You want to get all the leaves raked off your yard. You're doing more work than you would normally do. You're fatiguing, and you're not taking the breaks that you need to take just to say, hey, I'm going to take 5. I'm going to get grab either a bite to eat, drink some water. No,
maybe stretch.
Maybe
stretching would be good.
But people power through it. And instead of having good posture, and even if you just raked one side having good posture, now you have, your posture starting to falter. Some of those stabilizing muscles aren't working as well as they're supposed to, because most of us are not on our feet all day long doing that kind of activity. You don't have, you don't have the strength to do that, to do it as well as you would like to, I think is the way to phrase it. So take the breaks. Obviously, leaves should be done by the time this one comes out. But
you'd be surprised here in St. Louis, they're still falling sometimes in December.
Oh, wow.
So vacuuming is another one that bothers people a lot. And there is a way to vacuum where you're not hurting your back. And how I tell people do it is you're holding the vacuum straight out in front of you with the stick vacuum type thing, or with a rolly vacuum. and you walk with it rather than bending forward and twisting. Yes. You walk 2 steps back, and then turn your whole body. So it looks a little weird and hard to get used to, but if you're not, the whole thing of twisting and pushing the vacuum and pulling, and you're twisting, that's where people get in trouble, is the twisting of their back with the pushing and pulling. It's not that vacuums generally aren't that heavy, but the twisting over and over again, and it's a motion you don't do on a normal basis.
Right.
So you add that and maybe just some chronic low back stuff, you are going to tweak your back, and that can cause your whole spine to be upset. So definitely when you're vacuuming, try not to twist your back.
Mm-hmm. I think those hit most of the big ones right there.
I got 2 more.
You got 2 more?
Okay. So same thing with twisting your back, stomach sleeping.
Oh, yes. No, there is no redeeming quality for stomach.
No. So,
and I've seen the pillow out there that suggests, oh, you can put your arm through and now you can sleep on your belly. And I'm like,
no,
you are putting your head into a position that is going to knock you out of alignment.
Yeah.
Every time.
The only way I could say that, and nobody sleeps like this, but on like a massage table, if your head is straight down,
where they've got the cutout.
Yeah, I think you would not lose your alignment as long as your head's not too far back or forward. Yeah. I think you could be fine. If you have to sleep on your stomach, sleep like that. Yes. But otherwise, you're not really stomach sleeping. Your head's twisted and your legs up. Nobody sleeps with their stomach just like straight face down.
Right.
Your head's twisted, legs up.
Yep.
And that's bad for your neck, which is that's our bread and butter, is we want your neck to be good, but it's also bad for your back because you got one hip twisted. So y'all stomach sleepers, I know you're going to be mad, but it is time.
Yes.
You're not a baby anymore. I know babies like to get all curled up on their tummies, even though they tell you you're not supposed to, but they still do it. Stop stomach sleeping.
Yes.
It's killing you.
Side is okay.
Side is okay.
Back is okay.
Back's okay.
Just don't do the stomach sleeping.
But Doc, the only way I can sleep, Doc, is by stomach sleeping. I can't sleep any other way. That's what they say.
I hear that. And 2 things that I have found that have helped people who are, they're like, oh, I started on my side or I started on my back and I found myself on my stomach. The 2 things that I do, first off, I have something, I have a pillow between my knees.
Yes, absolutely.
And that actually helps as you're side sleeping, so that your hips don't get screwed up. The other one, like I said, this is one of those things that sits in the back of my brain, says this is some sort of deep-seated reflex that we will do naturally to protect young. But if you hold a pillow across your chest, if you want, it could be a teddy bear.
Could be.
Nothing wrong with that.
We don't judge.
There's plenty of plushies out there that apparently my wife needs to buy.
Is that one of her things?
Yeah, she has a bunch. She likes
I don't judge.
Little pillows. But in any case, you could use that and just sort of hold that so that when you lay on your side, it does 2 things. One, it sort of causes your shoulders to sit back a little bit instead of having a shoulder rolling forward, is what I found. And then the other thing is, again, your brain will think, oh, I must have a child embraced here so that I won't roll onto them and crush them. So that will help sort of set your body in a position that your body says, I'm cuddling a child. I'm not going to crush them. I'm not going to lay on my stomach. So I found that to be very beneficial, both for my shoulder. And the more I thought about this, the more I'm like, that's probably one of those deep ingrained things that we would have done back from the hunter-gathering days. So
that makes so much sense. Also, if you then turn onto your back, that pillow, you can sleep flat on your back, which is fine, but you want a pretty flat pillow for that. And you also want maybe a pillow under your legs, like a little bolster.
Yeah.
If you're a back sleeper, it does help take a little bit of pressure.
Especially if you've got some low back pain.
Especially.
Yeah, that helps for a lot of people where if you can't lay completely flat because it gets into the low back, one, probably start strengthening your hamstrings because that's a big part of what's going on there. But that's, that's going to let you have a good night's sleep almost every time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Last thing I'm going to talk about is golf. So golf is not a heavy sport. Like, I guess if you're carrying your bag, it's kind of heavy, but typically people have carts and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is very one-sided. And it is a kind of, can be a violent hit if you're not doing it correctly. As you're learning how to golf, those things can throw you off. So if you're just starting upper cervical care, it might not be the best time to learn golf.
Yeah.
But if you are under upper cervical care, I've had patients who haven't been able to golf in years and then got back to being able to golf. So there's this really cool like piece of the puzzle there where you might not have been able to do something for a very long time. And when you get your life back, it's one of those times where you get to say, hey, doc, and I love when patients come to me and they say, I played 18 holes and I didn't feel bad afterwards. And it's such a good feeling because you could tell that was something that they gave up and then they got it back. They never thought they'd be able to have that again. And the guy I'm thinking of, it was post neck surgery. I met him the day, a couple days after he was like released from neck surgery, kind of. He still had a brace on. And he was miserable. He couldn't breathe. Like literally there was some diaphragmatic stuff going on, but he had given up golf years ago. And like last time I saw him, he was golfing like a champ.
In fact, one of the funniest stories that I've ever heard about golfers, it was one of Dr. Drew Hall's patients out in LA. The entire family was under care, except dad. Dad wasn't under care. So mom drags dad in. I think at this point in time, one of his daughters is already enrolled in chiropractic school. That's how much the family is excited about chiropractic and the upper cervical work. Dad's not. Dad's like, nothing's going to touch my low back pain. But he hasn't played golf. I mean, he could barely play 9 holes, period. I mean, and that's, for a golfer, it's like 9, that's a good start to a day, right? Any case, Dr. Hall sees him. His wife pays for like all the care up front. He's like, really? He barely did anything. This was on a Friday, I think is how the story goes. Saturday, he's still a little miserable. Sunday, he's like, the guys call up and say, hey, you want to do 9? And it's like, yeah, sure. They do 9 holes and does another 9 holes. And then does a third set of 9. And as he's telling this story, in this, Dr. Hall had a patient testimonial dinner. He tells this story and it's like, doc, I don't know what you did. I'm still not sure you did anything, but I will see you on Monday so I can go play golf this week.
And that's the truth, is that although we've been talking in this podcast of things to avoid, we also help people get back to the things they love to do.
Right. Because honestly, if I had somebody who gets themselves knocked out on a regular doing jiu-jitsu, and I'd love to have a couple of those folks in because, I can identify with them because of, my personal background and things I did. They might not hold that, for a week or two at best. In fact, one of the sad things about how I train, I oftentimes get adjusted every 2 weeks or so. I'm sort of lucky that we've got Dr. Shiloh in the area now so that she can check me on the regular and vice versa, because she still trains as hard and sometimes she doesn't hold her adjustment very well either. So it's nice that, sometimes you have to understand that the activity that you're doing, you might need to take a break from it for a short period of time, but as we get you back into it, you're still going to be able to do it and maybe not have all the side effects, all the symptoms that you were having when things got bad that was preventing you from doing your activity. So again, like you said, the gentleman who had migraines, who doesn't have migraines, but still can bowl, that's a huge win. So folks, if you're like, yeah, but I'm not going to stop doing what I do. I get it. I got into this.
You don't have
into this to take care of the people that were passionate about their thing and they want to keep doing their thing, even at a detriment to their health. Are there better ways to pack your shoulder and lock it in deep so you can go bowling? Probably. Is it going to screw up your game? Absolutely. But you have to relearn the skills that you need to be stable. And sometimes it takes some time. So some of the time that you need a break from is being at the level that you thought you were. Some of it's just letting your body heal. so that you're not having your symptoms kick up. And sometimes it's just a matter of, well, I'm not going to lift 50 pounds, so I'm going to lift 30 pounds because that's what I'm capable of doing without hurting. And then you rebuild that strength, rebuild that adaptability and that functionality that you may have lost because you were damaged and you kept on pushing through the damaged injury. So
yeah, I agree. And people sometimes it's a matter of just don't do that activity right after you get adjusted to.
yes,
like I tell people, if you're going to work out the day of an adjustment, please work out before coming in.
Yep.
I don't care if you come in stinky.
Yep.
Maybe not too stinky, but don't come in.
I mean,
but don't like leave. And if you want to go for a walk, I'm not really concerned about that. But don't leave and say, I'm going to go do a CrossFit workout, or I'm going to go do a kettlebell workout, or any of those really intense workouts right afterwards. Actually, I wait. A lot of our patients in the first 2 weeks of care ask that you take it really easy on your workouts.
Yeah. And about 24 hours, within about 24 hours, you should be able to be back to normal functionality.
Yep.
At the very least, a good overnight will take care of everything you need. So it just, it's a matter of saying, all right, what is my priority? Is my priority doing the thing that I'm not a professional at? And 9 out of 10 times of these activities that we're talking about, you're not a professional. For the professionals, different category. We are doing things completely different. If your semi-professional bowling patient was, going towards a more professional gear and was having problems, and every time he bowled, the migraines kicked in, you would be checking him not only during immediately after, but sometimes you might be checking him during an event.
Absolutely. Which is why all professional teams, any sport, have chiropractors on staff.
They have chiropractors.
Now, do they have upper cervical chiropractors?
Well,
probably not.
No,
but
some of these docs should, or some of these sports should, but that's another story.
Especially football.
Oh, football, hockey, all of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, hockey.
In fact, my for lack of a better way to describe him, he's sort of a nephew of sorts. But we were watching his hockey game the other day, and he's got control of the puck. He's coming along the area where the penalty box is, and the kid who was in the penalty box from the other team pops out right in, and he runs into, Lucian runs into the guy coming out. Lucian ends up getting the penalty for controlling the puck, even though the guy came out and was in his way directly. It was a bad situation. The good news is afterwards at dinner, we were like, dude, you got robbed. He was like, yes, I sure did. But we checked to make sure he wasn't concussed. So, yeah, so it was, but those are little potential spots where those things can happen. So any case, that's there are all sorts of ways that we can injure ourselves doing the things we love to do. But quite honestly, make sure your head's on straight so that 100%, you can keep on doing that.
Yes. Your head on straight is the one-way ticket to having a way better life.
Yep. So let's wrap up talking. We were going to talk a little bit about, considering this is going to come out on December 14th. We were going to talk a little bit about sugar one more time, just to remind people.
It is the reminder of you now have more sugar in your house and at work and everywhere you go than all year round.
Yes.
And it is okay to pass the donut, and it is okay to say no thank you, and it is okay to not put it in your mouth. Now, if you have a piece or two, please just stop before you eat too much of it, because it is so highly inflammatory to your body. Yes. And if you notice that you have more aches and pains, that's why.
Yeah. And that's really common. It's funny because I listened to another podcast where he suggested get off of all sugar and wheat. And he said, just do it for a month. And this was about beginning of November, because he had done it for a couple of weeks, and all of his aches and pains, and he's in his, I think he's 65, 66. all of his aches and pains went away. So a lot of his other, a lot of people who are subscribing, and I'm like, yeah, sure, that's absolutely going to happen. I haven't had real, high levels of carbs in a long time. And sure enough, a lot of other people basically said the same thing. So it was funny. Now, what's coming up? It's the holidays. You know what? I really sort of I have weird bad places in the back of my brain for flavors that I associate with the holidays, and one of those flavors is eggnog. And I do prefer, what is it, Oberweis? Is that?
We just make our own eggnog.
Well, I was going to say,
I don't eat any of that stuff.
If I was going to get it, I would get the Oberweis. But I think you're right. It's better to make it, and I'm going to share a supplement that is, not only is it as sweet as sugar, but it does everything that sugar does opposite. So it actually reduces your insulin response and improves your sugar usage. You've
told me this before, and I don't remember what it is. What is that?
It is the amino acid glycine, glycine. It's a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar, but I would definitely highly recommend you cut that down even more because it is very sweet. It is the most abundant amino acid in our connective tissue. So all of our collagen. So if you buy collagen protein and you look at all the amino acid profiles, the one that's going to be highest on that list is going to be glycine. Now, it is not an essential amino acid because we make about 10 grams of it per day. But what's interesting is we are finding that there are groups of people, and you don't know which group you're falling into, right? This is the problem, that need anywhere from 10 grams a day to upwards of 60 grams a day. So that's a huge disparity, especially if you are not consuming foods that are glycine rich, which would be a lot of bone broths and soups, connective tissue things. So all of this other stuff is very valuable. So you can make your eggnog with glycine. You can make your pies and cakes with glycine potentially. It's a little pricey. It's not as cheap as sugar, but
I'm looking at right now on Amazon, a 1.1 pound pack is $21.94. I mean, if as a supplement goes, that's not that bad. Thinking of like a little thing of supplements, how often I spend $50 on that.
And some of them are $50. I've got one that it's a 30 grams, I think is what it is. And it was $25. It might've been $25 for a 2-pack, but still, it's, a lot of this stuff is not inexpensive, but it's simple, and it's very sweet. So that might be your,
I just put that in my Amazon cart, and because I want to make some things. Can you bake with it?
You can absolutely bake with. Like I said, it's a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar.
I'm going to try a few things out because a lot of times I'm wondering what erythritol is doing to people because.
And if you're going to do erythritol, which comes from pine bark, is that right?
I don't know, but okay.
You want to get the Canadian one, not the Chinese one. Yes. There is something in the Canadian one is superior. So you do, if you're looking at an erythritol type substitute, it's toxic to cats, which is why we don't have cats in the house.
Xylitol is toxic to dogs.
Correct. If I had a choice, if I didn't have animals in the house, and I was going to choose one of those two for a sweetener replacement for sugar, I would choose xylitol.
Okay.
Xylitol is actually a better replacement, but I haven't tried making cookies with glycine yet.
Okay.
But
I'm going to try. I've got a couple recipes I want to try. So, yay. Good information, Doc.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good. I think that's a great place to wrap it up, folks. Get your glycine for your sweets. Don't overdo it. Make sure your head is on straight. We are both going to be, we've got this will come out on the 14th. We've got one more podcast that we're recording tomorrow that'll come out on the 21st.
Ooh, that's going to be a good one, folks. When you get to that one, that is a radiologist named Dr. Luttrell. She is amazing.
She really is. And we're excited to have her on board. And then guess what? We might have a podcast come out during the Christmas week, but I will be on vacation. I think you're going to be on vacation most of that week as well. So make sure you get in and get checked and adjusted before the Christmas holiday. Because we are going to go, like you all should, and spend time with our families.
Absolutely.
So any case, Dr. Bagley, where are they going to find you?
You can find me at precisionchirostl.com. I'm in the St. Louis area in the West Side.
And I'm in Springfield, Illinois at KeystoneChiroSBI.com. Find us on all the socials. Make sure you like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. If we start seeing, I'll look for the 5-star reviews and make sure that we share those when they do pop in. We appreciate all the people who are listening. I was just looking a little bit earlier. We are up over 100 downloads in a day. So thank you for all of you who are listening. It really is. So for all of you who are listening, there's more than 5 of you. Thank you.
And from that more than 5, if there's a subject you want to talk about, or is there something that you had an experience with, and put it in a review or put it on one of our socials. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got one that where we're going to start working on for the future that one of Dr. Bagley's patients suggested. So any case, folks, you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Scherger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.